again, baseball romantics. Jason joining you for a new episode of the RAB podcast, and I have my usual partners. We're back together as a trio. It's been a few weeks. We got Bruce and Nico both joining me. We're all back together to talk some ball with you guys. We took a week off. We all had to go on the IL briefly, and we're back now. We're better than ever. We did a rehab stint. We're ready to go, and we're going to talk about all the things happening. We're in the stretch run here. We're down to the last month and a half-ish of the 2025 season, which is incredible to say. Football season starts this weekend, really, college football. So we have come a long way since the first shows we did back in March, guys, where we did our previews and talked about the upcoming season. It's really hard to believe we are here now. Before we get started, a couple of shout-outs I want to give our partners in crime on Facebook. And by the way, if you're not following us, if you're listening to this show, you probably are. But just in case, if you're not following Romantic About Baseball on Facebook, please give us a follow. A lot of great stuff on there. And our partners, Rounding Third Baseball, they do some great work. They have some great lives on Facebook, do some trivia. Just really cool guys, very knowledgeable about the game. And also our partners, the My Oh My Sports Podcast. They cover Seattle sports. And, of course, they are in a really good place right now as the Mariners are chasing down a playoff spot, still trying to win that division. A lot of great quality content there as well. We've got other partners. Just give them all a follow. The New York NYMLB Talk guys are great. Almost Cooperstown. The Nostalgic Baseball Geezer, Justin Rinaldi, he's fantastic, coming up with some historical stuff. Follow all those pages and podcasts. And then also give our merch a look. I'm wearing one of our hoodies here. And by the way, I can tell you that these wear small, guys. This is an extra large. It's a little tight. And I'm not skinny by any means, okay? But I'm not that big. So they wear a little small, just a heads up. But this is a hoodie that I ordered. So you can go to tpublic.com and just search Romantic About Baseball, and you'll find our line of merch. And we encourage you to do that. So we're excited about what we're doing here at RAB, and we got a lot more coming. So really today, I'm just glad to be back with the guys and talking some baseball. We're going to jump in, and we've got a topic we want to cover today. We're going to look at some teams who we think can make a run, who we think that's in the playoff picture now that might not stay there till the end of the year, and some teams that we think that are out of it right now that could slide into a playoff spot. So Bruce, Nico, welcome back. Glad we're all together. And you guys have anything before we jump into the teams you think are going to the World Series? We'll start with those. But anything else you guys want to cover before we jump in?
No, it's just good to be here. Good to be back. Good to be talking baseball.
Absolutely.
The Blue Jays are still in first place, Jason. They're still in first place.
Oh, Canada.
That's only because Aaron Boone's still managing the Yankees.
Yeah.
We'll take it. If anybody's missing the backstory there, I'm not a Blue Jays fan, but I've been pulling for them because I picked them as a dark horse, and they are winning. I didn't pick them to win that division. I won't go that far. I picked the Red Sox, but I did pick the Jays as a dark horse. All right, guys, so let's talk about really the most important thing, a team that you really, I guess if we were picking it right now, who's your team that you really feel confident is going to – are we picking who's going to be in the World Series, guys, or are we going to talk about who's winning the World Series?
I say win. This is your
right.
pick. Pick one team
in.
out of all of them right now. Who is it?
All right, and we can't pick the same team, correct?
You can't pick the same team.
All right, so Bruce, we're going to let you go first. Nico, you'll be number 2, and I'll be last.
All right, yeah, so I'm jumping in, and I am picking the Phillies to win the World Series right now. And we've talked about this a little bit back and forth. We've seen the Phillies go through ups and downs during the season, and we've kind of still kept that belief that they're a good team. But at the end of the day, they are one of the teams that are coming out as a pretty clear winner in the trade deadline acquisition period. John Duran has just been absolutely incredible. And the reason why I think the Phillies are the team to beat right now is really because of him and the old guy. David Robertson has come in, and now remember, the Phillies aren't asking him to be Mr. Savior, but what they're asking him to do is fill a role and give him innings. So they've got right now the potential to do something like this every night and go 6th inning with somebody like a Kierkegaard who's been very good, very solid. They could do Strom in the 6th or Strom in the 7th. They could do a Robertson in the 8th, or they could do Alvarez in the 8th. And then Durant has been basically unhittable. When you shorten the game that much for a team, this is like the 90s Yankees. You shorten the game to where you only need 5 decent innings out of your starters. You can get by with sketchy starters. And the Phillies don't have sketchy starters. Wheeler's on the IL, and I'm going to tell you that they're not going to bring him back until late in the season. They're going to let him sit and marinate because then he's going to come back fresh right before the playoffs. No Cy Young for Zach this year again, but he got hurt. You know, he had that blood clot. It happened, but now the Phillies have to be really smart about it. Rest him up, and then you got to look at this in the playoffs where they have Wheeler, they have Sanchez, who's going to vie for the Cy Young this year, and then they've got you have your pick there. Who is Suarez going to be the guy? Maybe. Is Luzardo going to be the guy? Maybe. Is Nola gonna find himself? Possibly. I'm concerned about Nola. I didn't like what I saw once he started getting hit the other day, but I still believe in him. So, but the point is, their pitching is so deep that they can now afford to lose Wheeler for a while. They're going to win the division without him for the rest of the season. That's not even going to be a question because the game is so short from a pitching standpoint. So they can weather an offensive slump. Now but that's not what they're seeing right now. Bryce Harper is absolutely on fire. You know, his OPS is over 1,000 over the last 2 weeks. JT Realmuto's OPS is over 900 for the last 2 weeks. Kyle Schwarber is just being Kyle Schwarber. So yeah, he's got 45 home runs now. And I wouldn't even say he's hot because he's fallen off a little bit in the batting average category. But Schwarber's is hitting. Trey Turner has now entered the MVP conversation a little bit. Yeah, he's not going to win it, but he's in the conversation. He's back above 300 in batting average, and he finally hit a home run in Citizens Bank Park against the Mariners, and then he did it the next day too. I mean, it's against, and the Mariners are scuffling, but still, to see Turner actually do that, and now he's one of those guys that needs his personal confidence to play well. So those home runs are actually a big deal for him. You know, he's an emotionally driven player. Most of the Phillies are. Harrison Bader has given them a little bit of spark. He's added some really great base running. He's started to get on base for them. I just see this team right now as having the ability to weather a storm and still win. And those deadline deals are why I think that they are the pick over, you know, maybe like a Brewers, because the Brewers might be the other team we might start to talk about, but I think it's the Phillies.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we can't pick the same team, so I'll get to mine when I'm up. But I agree with everything you said. The depth of pitching is there. When you can say that losing Wheeler for a time is not a huge deal, that tells you the depth of pitching they have. And what's really scary, if I'm another team in the National League, rested, healthy Wheeler going into October, if he comes back, say, mid-September, ramps up, and he's ready to go, that's going to be tough because he can win a 7-game series, 1-4-7, right? He can win 3 games
Absolutely.
right there. And then you just need one good performance out of those other guys. As you mentioned, you have another Cy Young candidate on that team. You never know with Luzardo and Suarez. You're usually going to get something good, but it's iffy. But if you got a healthy Wheeler, and then who knows, Nola might find his form. He's been in the postseason before. He's a veteran. He may be able to figure it out. Look, we all thought Charlie Morton had fallen off the face of the planet.
Yeah, look at him.
Veteran guy, he figured it out, right? So, yeah, I agree with everything you said about Philly. They're raking right now. They're going to win the division. I don't think there's any question about that anymore. Nico, who you got, man?
Well, I totally agree with you guys on Philly that the more the season progresses, the more I'm really liking this team. And I think Jason came up with the phrase, a red October, and I'm really starting to feel it. I've been a huge Philly skeptic all year because I kept thinking this team's window was closing. I guess not. Looks like it's wide open in front of them. I think it's up to them at this point. I think that the biggest hurdle for them would be the Dodgers in the postseason. Is that fair to say, guys? If they do meet the Dodgers,
I still think the Dodgers lose in the divisional series this year. I'm still staying with that because they haven't shown me anything. So I don't know if they see the Phillies or not. But if a team could beat them, why not the Dodgers?
Right, because if you look at the other teams, I think Milwaukee is fun as they've been, I don't think they can stack up against Philly the way that the Dodgers could. But I'm going to pick an American League team. I know you guys are going to probably look at me like I'm crazy, but I really like Houston to get back to the Fall Classic. And I really think that they're going to be the team that's going to go into October and show you why they've done it and why they continue to do it. And I think the biggest reason is that Carlos Correa trade. Correa back in Houston with Jose Altuve and Jeremy Pena and Christian Walker and the catcher there, I forgot his name, led by that rotation with Hunter Brown and Framber Valdez. Yordan Alvarez is finally coming back. He's finally coming back from a very long injury stint. That's a huge bat for the Astros. Huge bat. So I think Houston is going to figure it out in the American League, which is a very poor league this year. I think we can all agree with that. I'm not saying it's bad by any means, but nobody really stands out. I know Houston's been scuffling. I expect them to win the division, and I really believe that they're going to right the ship in the playoffs. I think Joe Espada has proven to be a quality manager after Dusty Baker's departure, and I'd like Houston to get back to the Fall Classic with the leadership of Jose Altuve, Carlos Correa, Hunter Brown, Framber Valdez, and Yordan Alvarez being the X factor for them in that lineup. Hopefully he can come back and stay healthy. And I think they get back to the Fall Classic and they steal one. Maybe against your Phillies, guys. I'm not sure. But I really like Houston.
That would be devastating to have that happen.
It would be, yeah. But I like Houston. I don't have a great deal of confidence with it. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how these teams coming into October. And we're going to talk a bit shortly about which teams we think may fall off. But I'll give you a hint. They're in the AL West for me.
I think Houston's biggest issue is being healthy as a team.
Right.
Because right now you've got Brown and you have Valdez, right? We know those are quality arms and those are guys that they can lean on a little bit, but then there's nothing else in the rotation. Is McCullers going to get back in time? Is he going to be impactful when he comes back? And is Hader out for the season? When is he coming back? They have no closer from there. And like I was saying about the Phillies, you build this bullpen from the back end forward, right? When your closer's right, the rest of the bullpen can kind of fall in line and you can make those starters that much better. And I think the Astros need that a lot because their offense isn't potent. It's not going to, if you're talking about pure offense, Yankees versus Astros, the Yankees are going to beat the crap out of them. But that's not the Astros game, right? That's not how they play the game. So the Astros need Correa to step up. When they get Alvarez back, if he steps in there and starts hitting bombs again, this team can be really good. But they need Paredes to come back healthy and hit it as well, and he's not right now. He's out.
He's out for the season. That's why they got
season. Oh, I missed that. Okay,
he's out for the season. That's why they got Correa to play third. But yeah, I mean, I think Houston is still the class of the American League, and with all the uncertainties with Detroit, because we like Detroit, but I'm not sold on them. The Yankees, as much as I want to believe in them, I don't know if Aaron Boone is going to clown his way out of another postseason or not. We'll see with that. They're going to be, Max Fried is struggling lately. We're not sure if he's hurt. There's something going on with
I wonder about that, Nico. I wonder, is there something going on with him? If I was Aaron Boone, he'd skip a starter too. Let him rest up. But Boone will start him every other day, so it doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, just like Volpe and everybody else. They don't really make changes. What's the saying when you do something over and over again and it doesn't work? It's
insanity.
Insanity. Yeah, that's Aaron Boone. And
welcome to Yankee land.
Yeah.
I like that pick. I mean, I think Houston has the tools if they're healthy. And Bruce mentioned that's the issue with Houston is, do we trust them to get healthy enough to make that run? But once you get in the postseason, you can make some things work in the postseason with these short series. I mean, when the Braves made their run in 21, they had a myriad of pitching injuries, and the Dodgers last year had a myriad of pitching injuries. So you can cover some things short term. And in the American League, I mean, I don't know, is there a team that really truly scares you? You know, I mean, is there a team like the Phillies that really, feels like that juggernaut there in the American League? So I think Houston's as good a pick as any right now in the American League.
Yeah.
It's a race. I mean, Detroit's been there all year, but they're in the Central Division, so they went on that long kind of down spell. I'm not sure I trust Detroit in the playoffs, but
But I
good
think
picks,
I think it
guys.
goes back to what Nico said a little earlier. Is you have a Spada who's I mean Hinch is a great manager too. I'm not casting aspersions at Hinch, but Espada's a good manager, and that Astros team has got this depth of experience that the Tigers don't have. So if you have an ALCS Tigers Astros, first of all, I would watch the hell out of that. Or at that ALCS, I think that's going to be would be a great series. But I might have to pick the Astros because unless Scooble's going to throw 1-4-7, which pitchers don't do anymore.
Yeah.
The Tigers are going to have a really rough time pulling things out of their hat when they need to. And I think the Astros are more likely to be able to reach in their back pocket and say, no, we've done this before.
Yeah.
We've done it before.
I agree. I
think
there's
Altuve, Correa, Alvarez, these guys have the experience and they're good.
I think there's definitely some legitimacy to having that postseason experience, as opposed to not. So you guys have left me without the Phillies or the Astros. I could go obvious and hedge my bets and pick the team I picked to go and win the World Series and be back-to-back champs, which is the Dodgers, but I'm not going to do that. A couple weeks ago, I would have said the Seattle Mariners. Right after the trade deadline, I like what Seattle did. I would have said Seattle, and I'm still not convinced they don't put it together. I'm just looking at Nico. We were talking about this off before we started recording. Eugenio Suarez, since the trade deadline, so since joining Seattle, he's batting 176, 3 homers, 27 strikeouts. 27 to 3 homers.
You sure you're not looking at Raffy Devers numbers there?
Yeah, well, that's a whole other topic for another day. He's slugging 353 with an OPS of 572. So
that's brutal.
And then our guy Naylor, 241. He's hit 3 dingers. He struck out 11 times to 3 walks, and he's slugging around 466. So,
but these guys can turn it on tomorrow.
They can. And
Suarez could turn it on tomorrow. Naylor could go in and hitting the gap every other day now.
Yeah.
They just have to do it.
I'm not giving up on them, but they're not going to be my pick. I'm going to go a little off the board here. The playoffs we know in MLB can be very unpredictable. And this team probably should have been World Series champs last year. I'm going with the San Diego Padres.
I like that.
Padres, who did a lot at the deadline. Right, they did probably more than anybody else as far as additions go. They've got pitching, they can hit. That was not a good series against the Dodgers. I'll be the first to say it. I thought they would go in there honestly and at least get one from the Dodgers. To get swept was disheartening if you're a Padres fan, obviously. But I still think when we get to the playoffs, remember the Padres had that Dodgers team on the edge last year. And I'm going Padres. I'm not going to take the easy route and go Dodgers. That's just too obvious. So Padres is my pick to win the World Series. Let the hate mail commence from the Dodgers fans.
Yeah, I like that pick, Jason. They went all in, right? Like we talked about on our last episode. They went out, they cleaned the shelves, they got rid of all their top prospects in the farm, and they're going for it. And that's just what the general manager there does. He is obsessed with trying to A, beat the Dodgers, and B, win a World Series.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Look, I would love, just as a baseball fan, my team's out of it, I would love to see one of the teams that has not won it get a title. Brewers, Mariners, Padres. They're all in it. They could all be in the postseason, probably will be. I would love to see those cities get to experience what they've never gotten to experience. And as a baseball fan who has been able to experience twice in my life out of 40 plus years of fandom, it's great, right? I mean, you cling to those moments when they don't come around very often. Real quick too, Bruce, we were talking about the trade deadline, the Phillies winning that. Duran, since the deadline, he has saved 6 games out of 6 tries with in 5 2/3 innings. He has a 0 ERA. You can't get much better than that. In fact, you can't get better than that. He has struck out 5 and walked 0 in that time. On the other side of the coin, Ryan Helsley for the Mets. Yeah, a 7.11 ERA and 6 1/3. He has struck out 9, walked 4. Yeah, not great. Not great. But again, there's still time to turn it around. So let's segue that into Bruce. Who's your team that currently is in that you think might not be in when the invites are handed out for the postseason party?
Well, so you mentioned Helsley and the Mets, and I was tempted to go Mets, just because I've been predicting all year long the Mets are going to Met eventually, that the pitching's not going to hold up, and all that's come to fruition. They are officially Metting. The pitching has fallen off because it's just tired. It wasn't that great to begin with. Alvarez is hurt, and Soto's shown some signs of life. He's shown some signs of being who he was, but at the end of the day, he's not the guy they paid for. But I'm also not sold that there's enough competition at that level in the National League that maybe the Mets won't make it. I think the Mets could probably hang on to that third wild card spot. If they can't, the Reds are going to jump in there, but then there's nobody else really that they have. And the Mets schedule for the rest of the season is very middling. I mean, they have to play the Phillies, they've got some things, but it's not super challenging. So instead, I decided to jump over to the other side of the city and go with the Yankees. I do not think at this time that the Yankees are going to hold on. I don't. So there's a few reasons why. We were talking a little bit earlier about and we're not going to talk about this today, but Judge versus Raleigh for the MVP before we start recording. And the thing that really sticks out is how bad the Yankees were without Judge. How lost they were, how they were just going out there and kicking the ball around, swings and misses all over the place. The pitching isn't good. And then Judge comes back, and all of a sudden they're not playing like a championship team, but they're not terrible.
Yeah.
And what that tells me is a couple of things. One, it means they're not that good. They need Judge in the lineup to win. Giancarlo Stanton was hitting home runs without Judge in the lineup, and they still weren't winning. But now you got Judge and Stanton in the lineup, and you're getting really good contributions from Bellinger and Rice. And so you're getting some offense because Judge is in the lineup. Judge is a lineup changer. There aren't that many of those guys in baseball today, even though everybody wants to say Devers he's not a lineup changer. Judge is a lineup changer. Cal Raleigh is a lineup changer. Kyle Schwarber changes your lineup. These are guys that make everyone on your team better. And you want them on your team. The problem with the Yankees is that what happens if he doesn't stay healthy?
Yeah.
And we know Judge is very injury prone. He actually just went the longest stretch in between injuries, a season plus. He's never done that before. But what happens if he pulls an oblique? What happens if, and he's DHing now. He's not even in the outfield. He says he feels good. He even said he can play the outfield. He said it yesterday because Boone said he's not going to throw all season. And Judge came back and said he doesn't know what he's talking about. I can, which is an interesting dynamic all by itself, by the way. But the reality is, if Judge actually does get hurt, Yankees are in trouble because then you got to go over and look at how bad the pitching really is. Nico and I were talking about this before he jumped on, Jason, is if I have to pick between the Yankees and the Red Sox, it's the Red Sox. The Red Sox have an ace in Garrett Crochet. The Yankees don't have that. Fried's been scuffling. He's not bad, but he's not doing what he was doing for the first half of the season, and you can't expect him to just carry the team. They have nobody else. Heel came back, and he wasn't the guy. I love to see what's his name, Schlitter pitch last night, and really did a really, really nice job. But he's not a guy who's going to carry that team. And the bullpen, for all the acquisitions they made, marginally better, maybe. I love David Bednar. I do. I love David Bednar. He's not the guy he was 3 years ago. You need somebody there at the back end of that bullpen who's lights out. You need Devin Williams from last year. Well, he's not the guy this year. And the other two relievers they picked up haven't panned out at all. Sent one to AAA. The pitching simply isn't there for the Yankees to win anything if they even do eke into the playoffs. if I have to pick a team that's going to not make the playoffs and is going to surprise everybody, it's absolutely the Yankees.
All right. That's going to get some folks' eyebrows raised when they listen to this episode.
And Aaron Boone is still the manager too, so there's another.
Yes. Much
He
to
always, yeah. Of course.
much to a lot of Yankee fans' chagrin as well. Nico, who you got? Who's in right now that you don't think is going to be there at the end?
Well, I tell you, it's interesting how when the Yankees struggle, the world is ending, right? I mean, remember when they were scuffling a bit and everybody was calling for Aaron Boone's job, and we all thought that the Yankees were going to fall out of the picture. And guys, they just swept Tampa. They're playing good baseball. Judge is back. They scored a bunch of runs down in Steinbrenner Field against the Rays. I think the Yankees will be fine. Will they get back to another World Series? That's a good debate whether or not that they will. So I think the Yankees will be fine. I think they're going to not only make the playoffs, I still believe that they're very much alive in that division. Boston as well. On the other side with the Mets, they have to be careful because Cincinnati's been playing good ball, and we've talked a lot about Cincinnati over the course of the season and how much Francona can make an impact on that team. It's not a very talented team. It's a gritty team. It's very similar to his Cleveland teams he had in the past. There's not a ton of star power, but he gets the best out of his players, and he's sort of, one of those guys that can make a difference for a team. We talk so much about managers and how some guys should be fired and whatnot, but he's actually a manager that can make a difference in the clubhouse. So I think the Mets are in a very difficult situation. I do think they will prevail. I just think there's too much talent on that team. I know Bruce is going to yell at me when I say that, when I say talent, but I think there's too much talent on the Mets. I think they're going to hang in there and survive that wild card. I think right now the Kansas City Royals are quietly, very quietly, no one's talking about them, playing very good baseball. And Jason and I were talking on one of our recent episodes about some of those veteran acquisitions they got at the deadline. Adam Frazier, Randall Grichuk, and Mike Yastrzemski, and how much better of a lineup that became with three professional hitters to help Bobby Witt, Pasquantino, Perez, and Michael Garcia. So I think Kansas City's quietly coming. I think they're gonna make a run. They're making a run. I think at this point of the season, you're either making a run now or you're kind of not. And I think Kansas City's going upwards. And I think Seattle, and I hate to say this, guys, watching them on this road trip was very, very deceiving because we all loved what they did at the deadline. And I hate to break it to you, I think maybe they're not as good as we think or thought they could be. That rotation has struggled mightily. They don't travel well. And I'm talking Luis Castillo, Logan Gilbert, Kirby. Bryce Miller just got back, and he didn't, he pitched okay yesterday against the Phillies. And Gino Suarez, like Jason mentioned earlier, he's struggling mightily. He's batting 176 as a Mariner. Josh Naylor is batting 241 as a Mariner. Maybe they're just not that good, guys. Maybe they just aren't as good as we thought they were. And I think they're starting to show that maybe Suarez peaked, and now he's no longer that guy in Arizona that was hitting home runs and, getting all that attention, because he's a sporadic hitter at best at the moment. And I'm not sure Josh Naylor is a ton better than what you had at first base prior. You didn't really have a first baseman, but I don't think he's made that first base position for Seattle that much better. And the rotation, it's just, we keep saying Seattle has a terrific rotation. They have a great rotation. Well, they're not performing right now. And can they fix it? They might, but I'm sort of thinking that they can fizzle out. And you look at recent history, and I always look at history in baseball. That's why I picked Houston to make a run this season. And Seattle is notorious for just always falling short. Every single year they fall short, whether that's in the playoffs, which, heck, it's only happened twice in 25 years, or it's in the regular season. The last 2 years they fell out of the playoff picture in the last week of baseball. So I think Kansas City emerges, and I think Seattle, unfortunately, goes backwards and falls out.
Can't argue with that, really.
Yeah, I can see that happening. I for one don't think it will, but I could see it happening. I still think Seattle's going to figure something out. It's crazy, and we talked about this before this season, but we always said, hey, if Seattle could just hit the ball a little, that pitching. I just looked it up. They're 16th in starter ERA in the majors, so just a
Yeah.
little over halfway. Yeah, that's not where we expected that pitching staff to be. So I think you make a great point there, and that's a big sample size now. So I still think they get in. I like what you said about Kansas City. I do think Seattle holds them off. Um, I'm looking at the Mets, and by the way, as we record this, the Mets lost again today.
Oh.
Mania got into the fifth inning, but couldn't get out of the fifth inning. Stanek gave up a bunch of runs in relief, so the Nationals beat the Mets. I'm looking at these numbers, guys, with the Mets, and they seem like the obvious choice. By the way, I think we all kind of want to pick the Mets here, but Soto, he's down to 247. That's not Soto numbers. I mean, that's 247. He was 0 for 5 today with 3 strikeouts. The other thing that's interesting, I think, is we all overreact to things. That's what baseball does to you. Such a long season. Remember when everybody was just gaga over Pete Alonso's start and he was batting 350, and yeah, he's at 264 now. I mean, you come back to your baseball card,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, you
Nine
knew he
times
was
out
going
of
to come
10.
down. Yeah, you knew
Yeah,
that
I
was
mean,
coming back.
it's the
Yeah.
old, you hit to your baseball card thing. So to me, the Mets are the obvious choice. And since neither one of you guys took the Mets, I could take the Mets. But that's so easy. I don't want to be easy. I I think the Mets are going to figure something out, get into the playoffs. They're not going to be a threat when they get there, but they're going to get there. I'm going to go off the board again. You guys are going to think I'm crazy. I'm going Boston. I don't know if I like the rest. One thing that occurred to me while we were talking about this, Bruce has got a great analogy that he's used a lot about who's your aircraft carrier. Who's Boston's offensive aircraft carrier? Devers is gone. Crochet's your guy, obviously on the mound, but I I still think I'm like Nico. I think the Yankees will figure it out good enough to get in. I think the American. The more I think about it, the more Nico man hit the nail on the head with Houston. Because when you get into the postseason, who else are you scared of there? Like I said earlier, we're leaving out my Blue Jays right now, but I mean I can see why people would believe in the Blue Jays. So I'm going to go Boston, and I think it'll. Can you imagine the offseason the front office in Boston's going to have if this team misses out? Because they didn't do a ton at the deadline. They gave up Devers before that. So I'm going to take Boston out, and I would open it up for Kansas City to get in. So we'll see how it works out. Any thoughts on that before we move
Well, I
on?
mean, you could say that Bregman might be the guy in Boston. I mean, his OPS
Possibly.
is 918. No, he hasn't hit 35 home runs, but I wouldn't necessarily bet against Bregman. He hasn't been hot lately.
Yeah.
But he has that Houston Astros experience. He plays under pressure. Nico mentioned about Gino up in Seattle. I think Gino's not a high pressure ball player. I think he
No,
was
he's not.
comfortable in Arizona. He was
Yeah.
comfortable in Cincinnati. These are places he hit a lot of home runs. And now he's in a place where I don't want to say there's expectations in Seattle. That's not accurate. There's hopes. That he's carrying the hopes of a city on his back. And I don't know if he's that
Absolutely.
guy. Maybe he's not. But Alex Bregman absolutely is one of those guys that you could pin something on his back. And if
Yeah,
he's
he can be.
healthy,
Yeah.
he might he might be able to carry the team. I'm not saying he's going to do it. Outside of their pitching, I struggle with Boston a little bit because their offense just hasn't been great.
Yeah.
But you win with pitching. I mean, that in those short series, pitching makes such a difference. But they got to get there.
Yeah.
But they got to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So the last question kind of, I guess it goes along with what we just talked about, but who's the team that's out looking on the outside looking in that you think is going to end up in the party? Bruce, who you got?
So my pick is the Kansas City Royals. They are the team that's going to jump in, and both of you said things that support that. The Mariners are scuffling, and you have to have some like belief in this Mariners team to believe that they're going to hold on and make the playoffs. And the reason I didn't pick them as my team that wasn't going to make the playoffs is because I don't think anybody think they had a chance at the beginning of the season. There was no expectation in Seattle. I think we were all surprised that they were doing what they were doing. Whereas in New York, the Yankees have to win the World Series every year, right? And that's just the way it is. And they led the division for so long.
Yeah.
that for them to slip this far is a big deal. And I think that all three of the wild card teams are in danger of not making it. But I also think that what you both said is completely legitimate. The Red Sox don't really have the offense to be potent enough to just beat up on teams. Seattle isn't impressing anybody right now. And what I think that means is that it opens the door for Kansas City to slide in there with, especially they've been playing really good baseball lately, grabbing those veteran players to augment the veteran presence of Salvi. And he's the last guy there that's been in the playoffs with the Royals, or not last year excluded, of course. But as far as carrying that team, they're so spread out with who is the guy. Who's the aircraft carrier? Is it Bobby Witt? Sure. Is it Vinny Pasquantino today? He's homered in 3 consecutive games. His OPS over the last week is over 900 for Vinny. He's turning it on at a really great time. And Mike Yastrzemski's hit 3 leadoff home runs since he's been acquired. He hasn't really hit anything else. But think about how exciting that is for that offense to know that there's somebody there who's going to make a difference, even in just a moment when all they've been looking at Witt and Salvi to make a difference. And wasn't up until recently. But in the last couple of weeks, Salvi's turned it on as well. He is, I think, 2 home runs away from his 300th career home run. This is a Hall of Fame catcher that if they need to reach down and find a reason to keep this run going, get Salvi back to the playoffs again, get him back and make a deep run. They've got the pitching to do it. They've definitely got the bullpen to do it. It's a top 5 bullpen in baseball. Estevez has been absolutely fantastic for them in the closer role, and the starting pitching has been good. So I think that Bobby Witt's getting hot, Pasquantino's getting hot. They got Salvi's getting hot. They got these new guys in the lineup that, while they're not individually, they're not difference makers, but together they move the needle a little bit for Kansas City. And I think that's going to be important coming down. And if Seattle can't get their act together, they're going to find themselves on the other side of Kansas City.
Yeah, we talked about this before we started recording. When we look at these wildcard races, there's not a lot to choose from. So you just took Kansas City. By the time you guys get to me, I'm going to have to pick the Marlins or something. But I think we all agree there's a decent chance that the teams that are in the postseason as of right now are going to be the teams that are in the postseason.
I think if you're placing a bet, that's your bet.
Yeah, that's your
bet.
I think
if you're, yeah.
Yeah, Nico, this is interesting now. He took Kansas City. Is there another team you see that Mike could slip in that's not in there right now?
Well, for the purpose of our conversation, I won't pick Kansas City, but I really believe they will find a way because, like I said, they're playing good baseball when it matters most, and they're trending in a positive direction versus other teams that are going backwards, like the Giants and the Cardinals and the Rangers and the Angels. They're kind of living under that 500. They're under 500 in the standings.
One thing about that, Nico, that I do want to add right before you actually get to your pick is 2 weeks ago, the Royals were a negative 20-plus run differential. They're -1 right now.
Yeah.
They're still negative. Whereas if you're going to go with maybe a Cincinnati or something like that, they're plus 53. If you want to look at Cleveland, Cleveland is negative 34.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I really like Kansas City's lineup with the additions of these veteran guys. That by no means are they, Willie Mays and Hank Aaron, but you have you have Bobby Witt, Pasquantino, Perez. You have your anchors in that lineup. So when you add these other guys in who are going to give you quality at bats in August and September, it makes a big difference for the Royals because we talked a lot about how putrid the offense was all year, right? And now it's drastically improved with some of these guys. So I think Kansas City did some nice work at the deadline to help out Bobby Witt and company. So I guess I'll have to look at the National League, and I'll have to look at the Mets being the most vulnerable, considering they just lost today to the Nationals. That's 2 in a row against the Nationals, and they got beat up today. So, and the Mets are playing very shaky baseball. You have a very uninspired Juan Soto. He doesn't look happy there. I don't know what's going on with him and his, is he unhappy to be wearing a Met uniform? Did he want to be a Yankee? Who the hell knows? He's getting paid a lot of money. Pete Alonso, like you said, Jason, his batting average has dropped significantly. And the pitching staff has kind of just fallen apart. And we've talked about how, they've never really had a great staff. And the motto of the Mets was, we're going to have this mid-tier rotation and we're just going to excel with it. And it worked last year to an extent, but this year you're seeing, from July on, they've struggled mightily. And Minaya has been, mediocre at best since he returned. And that was supposed to be the guy, right? He was supposed to be the guy for them. So I can see the Reds hopping over them, and I think personally I love it for baseball. I absolutely love to see the little guy get in there if he can, and I give all the credit to Frank Kona for making a difference in that team. And they're a fun team. They're not a very talented team. I know, Bruce, don't yell at me. I know I use that word too much, but I like the Reds to overtake the Mets in what is going to be a very long, confusing winter for Steve Cohen and company.
Well, since coming over to Cincinnati, Brian Hayes' OPS is 790. He only has 2 home runs, but he's still slugging at 467 as a Red. And I think that's significant when you're talking about a guy whose career OPS is only 679.
Right.
Before, playing in Pittsburgh, that Hayes is there. He's picking balls over at third. He's playing really great third base in Cincinnati, and he's offensively coming to life a little bit. And I know really short sample size, right? It's about 20 games he's been over there, but he actually kind of looks like the guy the Pirates thought he was going to be. So if something's going to put him over, it could be something like that, a reinvention of Brian Hayes.
Yeah, that doesn't leave me with anything. There's only one team for me to pick.
You can talk about the Royals, Jason. We can talk about anytime.
Yeah,
anytime.
I mean, I want to keep with the thing that, I'm not picking this with any. I'm just picking them because they're the only option. But the only other team you could conceivably pick here is Texas, because they do have some pitching and hitting. I mean, compared to like the Cardinals, who are about the same distance out in the National League, I'll go Texas as that team that could do it. But in all honesty, I think it's Kansas City. If Seattle, Boston, or the Yankees fall back, I think it's Kansas City. And if the Mets fall back, it's the Reds. Right? I mean, that's what we talked about this off air, guys. This is not what the third wild card was intended to do. It was supposed to keep all these teams alive. And there's all these National League teams, especially, who are technically within striking distance, but you just don't. Cardinals, you might believe in the Cardinals. The D-backs are still, I get the Marlins,
No.
The Giants, anybody, right? So, yeah.
What a disappointment with the Giants, man. A month ago, we were so hot on the Giants.
Yeah. It's baseball, man. It's just like baseball, right? I just noticed that Verlander, by the way, is 1-10 this year with a 4.6.
Yeah, every time he would go out and put out a quality start, he hasn't been god awful there. He's been okay.
Yeah.
But they don't score runs for him, or he just it just doesn't work out, and you got to feel a little bad for the guy.
Oh yeah. He's married to Kate Upton. Bless his heart.
Well, so no, I didn't say really bad. I just said
just a little bit. Yeah, he lost to Dylan Cease. He lost to Cease today. Cease's numbers aren't great either, but
no.
So yeah, I think that's great discussion. I think, like you said, Bruce, the betting favorite would be, I think, the teams that are in now probably get in. But with baseball, something crazy could still happen. We've seen crazy stuff happen down the stretch. We were talking about the 07 Rockies? I still hadn't found that yet, but they went on some insane run at the end of the year to get into the playoffs and get to the World Series. And I'm looking at the schedule, guys. We got Red Sox Yankees playing right now as we record this. No score currently in the second. So we got Red Sox Yankees all weekend. We've got Dodgers Padres all weekend in San Diego. The Mets are at Atlanta, so the Braves aren't in it, but the Braves will just love to knock the Mets down again. So 3 games there, while the Reds are out in Arizona facing the Diamondbacks. So a chance maybe by the end of the weekend for the Reds to own that last wild card spot. Kansas City playing Detroit this weekend. Another good one. Cleveland and Texas, both those teams trying to stay in the wild card race. Just a lot of good matchups here. By the way, Brewers are home for Giants, Cubs at the Angels. My Blue Jays are in Miami, which seems really weird. That's a really weird matchup, isn't it? Blue Jays, Marlins. So a lot of great baseball this weekend.
That's
a lot of good
and
matchups.
that is what interleague play was meant to do: bring the Blue Jays and Marlins together.
That was the whole point. We needed to have the northernmost team versus the southernmost team, right? So we got it. So it should be a fun weekend. A lot to talk about next week when we reconvene.
So 2007, Jason, the Rockies won 21 out of 22 at the end of the season, and then they had that wild card tiebreaker. They won 90 games that year, but they won 90 games that year.
Yeah, 21 out of 22.
Yeah, 21 out of 22 to get there. You are not like, yeah, listen, the Cubs could win 90 games. Yeah, sure. And the Padres, okay, I guess it's not as bad as I thought it was. I'm looking at the records.
Yeah. Remember in the preseason when people were asking if the Dodgers could win 110 or maybe even break Seattle's record? Yeah. Baseball, man, it'll get you every time. Every time.
Well, a few days ago, the Padres were in first and the Dodgers were in second, and now it flip-flopped again.
Flip-flop.
Because one team got it and the other one didn't, right?
If the Padres have any respect for themselves at all, they will win 2 out of 3 at least this weekend at home. And really, they need to turn the tables and sweep them. But I know that's a tall order when you're facing the Dodgers. So it's interesting to me that none of us picked the Dodgers to win the World Series.
But remember last year at the end of the year, that's how the Padres got into the playoffs.
True. That is true.
And then they couldn't pull it off in the playoffs. But that was a great series. That Padres Dodgers series last year was one of the best series in recent memory.
By the way, Nico, your Mariners are home this weekend against the A's. They cannot wet the bed.
Hey, the A's are playing good baseball.
I know, but you can't wet the bed. You can't.
The A's are one of those teams that'll win, 5 out of 7, 5 out of 8, and then lose 7 in a row.
Yeah.
Which team are you gonna get?
I had to have misheard this, and I haven't looked it up yet. I swear I heard this morning, just listening to the sports in the background. The Shane Langoliers, the A's catcher, came up in the Braves system, has 16 home runs since the All-Star break. Is that even possible?
I think that's right. Yeah, I think that's
insane.
right. Yeah.
Another catcher of the Braves sent on down the road.
Shea Langoliers, that's what they call him.
Bad ball player at all.
No. His sister was playing softball for a team we were watching in the College World Series, actually. I can't remember who she was with, but she was. I remember watching the College World Series, the Women's College World Series with my wife, and the sister of Shane Langoliers was playing for a team. Anyway, that was a tangent. So we'll wrap it up, guys, unless you've got something you want to add. I think this was great discussion. We had some really good discussion before we started recording. We're going to come back. We're going to talk some alignment potential on a future episode. A lot of talk this week. Manfred made some comments that made it seem pretty much inevitable that there will be expansion and there will be realignment to go along with that, geographical realignment. So we'll get into some of that. We'll hopefully, maybe have some more details on the new TV deal for Major League Baseball. We'll talk some more about that. Some big changes coming to the way baseball is covered. And, just any other news and notes as we head towards the postseason. It's not that far away. It's going to be here before you know it. We got great, baseball this weekend to go along with a little football starting off. So should be super interesting weekend. You guys have anything else you want to throw in before we say good night?
Yeah, I do. Since you brought it up, but you didn't. You sort of did. I think we officially can put to bed the idea of the A's versus the Rays in the playoffs, and I'm really I'm very disappointed in that. I really wanted that, even if it was just a wild card series, I wanted it to happen so much.
Yeah,
but I think it's mathematically not just possible at this point.
Yeah, we all wanted to see that, honestly. Outside of potential Marlins Blue Jays World Series, I think that was our hope. Nico, you got anything? I don't know if you can top that, Nico, but if you got something, feel free.
Another cool note in Major League Baseball: Bubba Chandler getting the call up for the Pirates. Very excited to see him pitch.
I think it's too early and a waste of his service time, but I get why they're doing it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see him, and he's going to look really good in pinstripes one day.
By the way, small milestone for the podcast. We're continuing trying to grow, but we're getting there level by level. We are over 1,000 downloads now, so that's kind of a milestone, right? So we'll celebrate that a little bit. And I would encourage anybody that's listening, hey, just get the word out for us. Share us on Spotify, iTunes. I got to get back on YouTube. I haven't posted our last couple episodes on YouTube. That's on me. I'll make sure this one is up there so you can see the merch. And of course, Nico and Bruce's beautiful faces. And yeah, so just help us spread the word. And I would encourage you too, if you're following our page, also follow the RAB podcast page. It's a separate page, but I found it easier, guys, to do lives on that page. For whatever reason, the software just likes broadcasting to that page more than the main page. I don't know why. But in the future, we can do some lives. So I encourage you folks out there, if you're following the Romantic About Baseball Facebook page, also jump over to the RAB Podcast Facebook page and give us a follow. Other than that, we appreciate your time and listening. And guys, it was a great discussion. I appreciate your time. And we will see you guys at the ballpark.